Do you have it on the drive or?
I don't want a flash drive as well, just in
Okay.
case.
Mm-hmm. Hey, hey.
How do we do this with you?
Zoom. Yep. Mr. Mount?
Good. Mark, it's a little cold in here. Did we not pay the bill or something?
It's hard to regulate the temperature in a building as old as this one. But we can turn it up.
Good.
No, it's cold. I'm always cold.
We just got back from Maui on Sunday morning.
Oh, well,
It was really cold in here.
yeah.
Not a lot. They cleaned up the roads pretty quickly because we arrived on Thursday and it was a downpour.
Yeah.
And we traveled the road on Friday, and there was one spot where it's closed and we had to turn.
Oh.
Damage up there? Not really. There were a couple of areas where you could see bringing some buckets and through the road. You saw where it was concrete blocks. A lot of would be up to the area.
math wasn't. I go to Olympia tomorrow, it's gonna be in the 40s. The heat wave.
Hello, Mr. Klein.
How's it going, Mr. Mount?
Pretty good.
Forward. County, or GSI. Fine. My boss and I have some bills. To work to. Got with the request to. Opening.
Good luck. That's fine.
Just me remember. Getting our legislators to commit to committing to things. How long are we getting Maui for?
What's that?
How long are we getting Maui? How was it?
It was good. Yeah, the first 2 days we got a lot.
Yeah. How long's the flight from here?
Earlier today, we worked with actual food challenge, 36 minutes.
Yeah.
I probably should know by heart by now, but yeah, I'd like to call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Cheney Planning Commission Monday, February 10th, 2025. Our first item of business is citizen participation. Is there anyone either on Zoom or in chambers here that would like to participate as far as the citizen participation? If it is in reference to public hearing 2025-20 or 04, we'd ask that you hold that until we get to item number 4. If not, please come forward. Provide your name and address for us if you would, please.
Hello, you guys are seeing me over and over and over again. My name is Margot Buckles. My address is 15205 South Golden Eye Lane, Cheney, Washington. I'm here as a representative of the Cheney Co-Housing Group. I have two other people here with me. I wanted to thank you for allowing us to participate in the session last week. And again, if you have any questions about Cheney Co-Housing or would like a presentation about the co-housing development that we'd like to put here in Cheney, please let us know and we'd be happy to provide it. Thank you.
Thank you. You're always welcome, no matter how many times you want to come back. Any other citizen participation? Moving on to item number 3, approval of the minutes of the January 13th, 2025 regular meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes for January 13th, 2025 regular meeting. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Moving on to item number 4, public hearing 2025-04. The Gillingham Comprehensive Plan Amendment. Since this is a public hearing, we'll go through just a few ground rules. We'd ask that you keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. If someone has already spoken about that, we'd ask that you not just repeat. If you have something additional to add, we are happy to hear that. We would ask you to not interrupt or make comments during other people's comments. We would like to have this meeting kept in an orderly fashion. When you come to the podium, please state your name and address, if you would, so that we know who you are and we have the ability to be able to take notes. Even if some of us may know you, please make sure you include your name and address for us. Thank you. Brett.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Tonight we have for a public hearing is the Gillingham Comprehensive Plan and Zoning Map Amendment. This application came in late last year. So during our annual comprehensive plan annual review cycle. So this is just part of the public process to bring it before you tonight for a recommendation on to City Council. Okay. I believe everybody on Zoom should be seeing this, so we're good. Basically tonight is the comprehensive plan amendment, and zoning map. Change in process, project proposal, we'll go over that. The comprehensive plan and zoning, concurrency. Comments as well, criteria for approval, and a brief recommendation. So what is a comprehensive plan amendment? A zoning map amendment? A comprehensive plan is where the applicant makes an application with the city to amend the comprehensive plan and change the designation to something different that better suits a proposed project. Again, comprehensive plan amendments only take once a year. We're not supposed to do those very often. They're a major ordeal because we're amending our 20-year vision for the community. A zoning map amendment, which can occur anytime, and we're taking these two as a package together, is where the applicant makes an application with the city to amend the zoning map to change the current zoning to something different that better suits a proposed project. What is a zone change? If approved, it must be based on a defined set of criteria outlined in the zoning code. It requires a public hearing. We're having that tonight. It's a legislative act, which is a final decision by City Council. And it may include specific conditions of approval to mitigate impacts to surrounding properties. So tonight's objective, have the planning commission consider the plan amendment and zoning map amendment based on the facts, findings, and conditions outlined in the staff report that has been provided to you. Take into consideration any public testimony that's provided tonight. And then ultimately make a recommendation to City Council. Chapter 2330 of the CMC outlines process for land use reviews within the city of Cheney. Both the comprehensive plan amendments and zoning map amendments require public hearing, as we mentioned earlier. So this outlining what chapter 23 says. Notice of application, the applicant was required to provide notice of application to properties of record as shown on the records in Spokane County Assessor. They're within 300 feet of the proposed site. That did happen. We actually provided the mailing labels and we did the 300-foot search. We provided those to the applicant. He then mailed the notice to the property owners. A notice was placed in the Cheney Free Press and a notice was placed on site. So, application was submitted back in November, deemed complete in December. Affidavit of mailing happened in the beginning of the new year. Went in the Cheney Free Press back on January 23rd. Posted on the 16th of January. We had the meeting tonight on the 10th. We're planning to get this to city council on the 25th. Worst case, it goes on the 11th of March, but I think we should be able to make the 25th. Deadline for issuing a decision is 120 days, which is April 9th. The proposal by Land Use Solutions entitlement, and they're here tonight to amend the zoning map and comprehensive plan for 2 parcels. We'll show you the map here in a second. The entire parcel is currently zoned commercial with the comprehensive plan designation of commercial. The proposal is to change from commercial to high-density residential. The site is located on 3.14 acres behind the F&M Center. They're on the corner of First Street in Cheney Spokane Road. So it's that area behind there before you get to the train tracks, kind of tucked behind the buildings. And located there off the Rangers Road. The site's 3.4 acres, landscaping, the building, code stuff, parking, those will all be addressed during either abiding site plan phase or a building permit application. This is location. This is First Street here. East Spokane Road. East Hardware and Jones is at the top. The center is here. This is the site right here. The meeting light, the other tracks run over this direction. This is the branch line goes out to Philly City. So this is the site right here. It's been zoning commercial since the mid-70s. When the city brought that in. So it's just been sitting there. So that's the subject site. That's highlighted in yellow.
Brett, can you show me again where the railroad lines are?
The main railroad line goes from Spokane to Tri-Cities, goes here, right here, south side.
Okay.
And then this is the branch line here that goes up to Philly City. Goes up by Fairchild Air Force Base and goes up.
And that's the one that crosses the Cheney Spokane Road.
Yeah, it might be 2-3 trains a day fast.
Thank you.
This line here is about right here. These are some pictures of the site around there. You see some trees. This was taken, probably a month ago when we had a little bit of snow. This is another picture looking to the north. On my left side there is the F&M Center, or actually Rockanova. There's another picture looking to the east. Another picture looking to the north. On my left-hand side there, as I'm looking to the north, on my left-hand side is the F&M Center. I'm pretty much behind where Domino's Pizza is. Over. This is a copy of our current land use map. Which shows the zoning or the land use designation down there is commercial. Which we'll zoom in. Map right here. This is the site that potentially change from commercial red to multi-family. This one's considered here to be changed to brown on the land use. And then we have the current zoning site. This is shown here with the area in pink as the subject site. And that would become R3H, would become green on the map. So like the other R3H on the property. So. This is a site plan of the provided by the applicant. This is very schematic at this point in time. They're proposing these units down here. For the building, parking, associated parking as well. in this room would be improved and great. They're working with the public works director to figure out how much the code sleeve is completed at the time. They would have access to Cheney Smoke Air Road and the bridge. So, open activity. Utilities would also be required as well. So we have some comprehensive planning goals that had to be met for the project. Those include grow and sustain a balanced resilient economy, goal number one. Goal number 5, 7, which is quantities of land use. Number 13, which is a self-reliant community. 17, involve the local community. And number 18, which is maintain the provision of affordable and efficient community services. So those goals will all been met. Policies, expand jobs. Obviously, you have housing, you have jobs. Support development of infill housing. This would be an infill development for a variety of residential building types. This would be apartment units. Again, it provides a piece of the housing stock there in Cheney. Land use growth of patterns that ensure residents are within walking distance of civic and services. This would actually provide in a way, housing and people for the businesses in the F&M Center. So people can walk over to a hardware store or Yokes or other businesses to make purchases. So now we have housing that supports the retail. Maintain land use strategies that favor growth within the urbanized area versus going out to the perimeter. This provides that as well. A little bit of history. The site was 1980. The site was owned C2 General Commercial. The site was brought into the city in 1980 and was initially retained as vacant land behind the Farmers and Merchants Center. Basically, there is no documentation on why that was applied. So we believe commercial zoning was applied to the site to facilitate commercial development at some point in time. Commercial development just has not been seen behind that existing center. Could have been earmarked for expansion of the Farmers and Merchants Center or something different. But as it is, nothing's happened since that time, so. Okay, let's go through the comprehensive plan amendment criteria. The amendment is necessary to resolve inconsistencies between the comp plan and implementing ordinances. So again, to move forward with the proposed mixed use residential development, comp plan amendment has been applied. So again, this provides in a large sense a mixed use site because you have now housing that supports existing commercial. Applicant has made the zoning map, so they're to amend any inconsistencies, so it's been completed. Amending the plan will not adversely impact general public health and safety because it's already in the city limits. We have services for that area. It's currently served by police, fire, and electrical, public works services. Those will be enhanced. It's compatible with comprehensive plan map amendments, we support 1, 7, 13, and 18. And then meet policies 1, 25, 26, and 31. Conditions have changed since somewhat since the adoption of the comprehensive plan. The redevelopment of the site has never been really discussed in the comprehensive plan. We've never really discussed housing back here or any other kind of use of period. So it's never been discussed. But we have seen the need for housing in Cheney. So we think this application minimizes the needs to expand the urban growth boundary while we're going through our comprehensive plan update cycle to meet our housing needs. This matter of fact will help us meet some of the housing needs we're talking about right now in their comprehensive plan update in terms of the number of people we'll be projecting to service here in Cheney. So this housing development will meet some of those needs.
Brett, what's our vacancy rate as far as Spokane, or as far as the city of Cheney?
It's very low. We're under 5%, right? 3 or 4, Sue, last time we checked. Yeah, we're around 3 or 4%. Last time we did vacancy survey.
And can you quantify for me what 3 or 4% means? As far as units?
Oh, I'd say maybe 15, 20 units, maybe.
Thank you.
So 3 to 4% vacancy out of 1,800 units.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Pretty telling.
Housing market's tight.
Yeah.
And again, part of it's local folks, college students, but there's also people living here because it's cheaper than Spokane. Maybe at the Air Force Base, maybe working in Airway Heights, variety of reasons, but whatever the reason is. Yeah, housing is tight.
How many units will this potentially add?
Potentially, they're talking around 110 units or so. And I'll have the applicant come up here after my presentation. You can talk a little bit more about the proposed housing. Currently, we have over 200 acres of undeveloped land within the UGA. Especially that located south of the train tracks. Much of that's difficult to develop. The redevelopment of this site really gives a chance for better meeting housing needs within the UGA without actually going to land that's a lot more challenged. It's a comprehensive plan amendment, proposal involves extension of water and sewer services outside the urban growth area. Following additional criteria must be met. This really doesn't apply since this is not going outside of our urban growth area. It's within the city limits, so these services can be provided. This proposed amendment would consistent with the overall intent of the goals of the comprehensive plan. It meets the overall intent, which is the spirit of the comprehensive plan. Criteria number 7. TW 3670A, and white planning policies. It is consistent because this is an infill site. This includes reducing sprawl, accommodating a variety of housing types and economic development. This also meets the intent of countywide planning policies in terms of citing facilities at countywide significance. Whereas the amendment is comprehensive plan is proposed, business used the property that have similar compatible designations. If approved, the parcels to the north, west, and south would still have a designation commercial. This resolution would complement the nearby commercially designated parcels. So this would complement the F&M Center for providing people for shopping and retail purposes. So it fits the need. Criteria number 9, public facilities, infrastructure, transportation systems have been provided. As proposed, we will be infrastructure and transportation systems on the site. We were already talking about that. We've talked to our public works director and others to make sure we have water, sewer, storm, as well as connectivity to both First and Cheney Spokane. Again, this is a high level application. We don't have civil plans or anything really high level detail in terms of the street layout and curb cuts and utility lines. Those will be dealt with if this gets approved at a later date in terms of actually doing the civil plans and all the engineering.
Brett, how about, naturally, I'm always concerned about water. What does this do to our water supply?
Currently, this would tap into both the water line on First Street and the water line on Cheney Spokane Road. So we actually will have a water line that's looped, which will be good for us. In terms of water supply, I can have, when I'm done with this presentation, I can have Todd chime in on the water supply side. Let's see, criteria number 10. Proposed amendment is complementary and compatible with adjacent land uses. Again, this would complement the commercial and provide a population to support that. Criteria number 11. The proposed amendment does not adversely affect lands designated as ag or resource. There are no known agricultural or resource land significance. There are some trees on the eastern portion of the parcel that would be addressed in subsequent applications such as a critical areas permit if need be. We'll work with the applicant as he designs those apartments to keep as many trees there as a nice visual buffer. So that'll be worked out at a later date. Let's see, zoning map amendment is a response to conditions that have changed. there currently is a shortage of housing in the greater Spokane area. And that's kind of the understanding there. Proposed rezone would help alleviate some of that demand. So, both a city issue, but also a kind of a regional issue. We're just one component of a regional situation. Zoning map amendment criteria number 2. That amendment has a substantial relationship with the public health, safety, and morals and welfare of the community. We have had some challenges with this site in years past with being out of sight, out of mind with public safety and vagrancy issues back there, because people can do things back there and police aren't always going back there, so this would actually open that up a little bit more with actually people back there and stuff like that. It's just a hidden location. With this proposal, this would be a positive in developing an unutilized site and supporting nearby commercial. Criteria number 3, the map will force the Cheney comprehensive plan. As proposed, the zoning map amendment would meet those goals. That would meet those policies. Again, the site was commercial because it's nearest First Street. But again, you know, for a retail business that needs a lot of visibility, they're not gonna be back there. The best commercial we could ever get back there would be professional office space at best. And that hasn't come through in the last 45 years. Visibility challenges on the site will likely prohibit the site being fully developed. Explain how site and sound buffering would be provided, existing, let's see. Actually, the trees back there would be a natural buffer, so those would be be retained as much as they can be. We had a trip generation letter prepared by Sunburst Engineering on December 9th. The letter is peer reviewed by Adura Engineering. The new project would be based on a proposed number of units. And we were thinking around 110 plus or minus. We generated 572 trips, 23 in the morning and 45 in the afternoon. The applicant and the city would work to finalize improvements on Andrus Road and access to both First Street and Cheney Spokane Road. So again, this is a high level application. If this were to move forward, we'll have those discussions and we'll work with city plans and policies for those improvements. As noted in the staff report, no comment letters were received at the time of the staff report being mailed out. As of today, I have not received any comment letters or any phone calls or emails. So no comments so far. Staff recommends consideration of this application as the comprehensive plan and map amendment and zoning map amendment would alleviate housing challenges in Cheney. Proposed comprehensive plan map amendment and zoning map amendment by the applicant is consistent with the comprehensive plan in the long run. And that's all I have for a presentation today. Any additional questions before I pass this on to Todd to quickly talk about water?
Question regarding traffic in and out. Traffic is proposed to go enter on Andrus Road off of First Street, right at the location where we're speeding up as we're going east and we're slowing down as we're coming west, right? Basically in front of the farmhouse restaurant. Is that a consideration in terms of traffic flow and what'll it do to traffic backing up at the lights or accelerating coming out of the lights there on the Cheney Spokane Road?
So are we talking?
Yes, yes. Well, wherever they are coming in, I think I was generalizing is how close it was to farmhouse, but at that intersection there, we've got traffic going east at 35 miles an hour, traffic accelerating off of the light to 35 and then being told to slow down to 25. Basically, right? No, back where you were at on Main Street on First. So right about there, there's a big traffic speed change going on. As you go west, you're decelerating, and as you go east, you're accelerating. And is that going to cause a problem at that intersection? If we've got cars leaving out in the morning as people are all heading off to work and returning to work again in the evening, what kind of impact is foreseen at that intersection there at Andrus Road and First Avenue, First Street?
That level of impact analysis has not been completed. The only thing we've done so far is a trip generation letter, basically based on the trips that have been, could be potentially generated by the number of units. If this gets approved to move forward, we would need to have that discussion as far as traffic calming, interchanges. Does this be right in only, right out only, move better access up there, how we handle that, that's.
Okay.
That's
So that's for the next level of planning is what
We
you're
would
saying.
have to have that discussion.
Well, and this is maybe a good point for me to jump in and say, my group at Ardura, remember, we also serve the city as a transportation consultant as well. So I'm letting you guys know that my group is the one that reviewed the letter and did the peer review. So if there's an issue with that, please let me know. But our conclusion basically was that you have a great question. What you do in those particular situations is you look at levels of service, and then more importantly, from a safety perspective, you look at sight distance. And sight distance is weighted based upon approaching and departing speeds. Being on this side of the road, you have a sight line that you could look north and south and have sufficient sight to see oncoming traffic, both approaching and departing that intersection. So from a speed up and slow down perspective, if they were on the opposite side of the road where it's harder to see up the road, we would have had some more concerns on sight distance, but they're kind of at an optimal location within that horizontal curve to have some sight distances. What we did note is that, the project will generate trips that is just above the threshold for what would be determined a level of service study. With that said, we did conclude and didn't necessarily confirm the need for the level of service study, because we thought that the number of trips that would be generated would be sufficient within the context of the system. However, if that was to be determined a need down the road by council or by Public Works, that's still out there. But basically the conclusion we said is the letter was concluded per standard. We didn't find any technical errors. And then we had a couple of offers that we had in terms of frontage improvements and some pedestrian things we'd like to see accommodated in the design process. So the biggest articulation there is from a sight distance perspective. There is sufficient sight distance giving speeds and approaching traffic where at least people could see as they're turning into and from traffic at that location.
Okay.
So given the context of all of that, if anybody does on the public side or on our side have some issues with the fact that my group reviewed this, I'm very lucky in the capacity that I get to serve the city on that regard too. But, that's why I'm putting it out there at this time too. It seemed appropriate to put on the table.
Any other questions from planning commissioners before we turn over to Todd to talk about water? Todd, did you want to talk about water briefly?
Yes, absolutely. When that question came up, I ran off to the our water demand forecast and all of our ERUs. In 2018, we were projecting from 2018 when our water comprehensive plan was actually gone through, it was passed in 2020, but from 2018 to 2024, we were projecting 169 multifamily units in that forecast, which we have not reached yet. And then also in the housing, it was kind of overstated in our housing market, 161 housing units. And that would be less than about 100, because we filled in 2019, we filled the last 53 in Harvest Bluff. So long story short, we have about 200 ERUs that we over predicted from 2018 to 2024. And so there are plenty of ERUs in our forecast because we're not meeting our forecast at this time.
Thank you, Todd.
Or excuse me, Brett, I do have a question. So in terms of housing supply and everything, I mean, this is being proposed as a swap from a commercial to a residential. Are we having to trade out other areas where that supply was designated for? And again, my knowledge of what's going on with the county and the limitations with their quasi moratorium through 2026, does this apply that there has to be some kind of residential swap within Cheney to accommodate this project? Because you're taking 200 lots, which would have been somewhere else, and putting it here. I mean, do we have to move any of those pieces around? But this doesn't apply here.
No,
I'm
this-
articulating myself well. I'm hoping that you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I
behind
mean,
that.
we're not swapping this for acres somewhere else and within the city limits. This is an addition to what we already have zoned. This is bought by a particular property owner who happened to own property here. We would like to see a different use for this piece of property.
But aren't we only allowed so many additional residential units, or how does that not apply to the county moratorium?
County moratoriums for county unincorporated lands in the county area, but we are not. subject to that.
We're not beholden to that. Okay, that answers my question. So,
Now, we are beholden in the 2026 comprehensive plan update in terms of the countywide goals of trying to meet these housing needs, and this actually helps us meet our demand for the county. So this is a good thing for us. This actually reduces the demand for urban growth area shifting and things like that. And things like that, so we can meet some stuff already in our city limits. So they prefer, instead of modifying your UGA, to do infill development. This is a perfect example of infill development on a greenfield site.
yeah, I'm not disagreeing with anything you said. I just want to make sure we weren't getting sideways with the county on any of this. So,
It's complicated.
So when we take, if we approve this and take 3.14 acres out of commercial ranking, how many commercial acres does that leave us in the city? What's our volume of commercial?
I'd have to pull that number up, but it would be 3.14 acres less than what we currently have.
I was just wondering if you knew off the top of your head what that first number is.
Oh, we maybe have about 40 acres out there somewhere. Commercial, throughout the city. Most of it's on First Street going out west towards Tyler. Most of the stuff that's commercial on this end of town is pretty well used up. There's a few pieces, there's some pieces up on some way behind Taco Bell that are still out there, could be developed. So I say 50, 60 acres, somewhere in that ballpark.
I mean, I got more unless anybody else wants to jump in.
Fire away.
So within the context of that review, I did talk about earlier, Brett, and I don't know when we flush this out. My concern wasn't necessarily about traffic as much as bikes and peds. And in terms of that bikes and peds, our conclusion in that letter is we did have a far ways to go up First Avenue before you got to a signalized crossing where people could cross at the intersection. My concern is, especially if this turns into be student housing where kids are walking to and from campus, you know, they follow straight lines. They won't go out of their way. So what I'm asking is there a process where we can look at whether or not some kind of crossing or some kind of placement of a place where those kids can cross the street on First? I mean, can we still have a bite at that apple down the road, even if we approve this today, at looking at kind of pedestrian patterns?
I can weigh in, Brett, on that one. So right now, I would suggest that obviously the Cheney Spokane intersection across First Street is our pedestrian, our closest one. We have to work with the Department of Transportation, and we have been working with them on two other intersections, College Hill and then up on Simpson Parkway. Just because of that nature. Now down below, it's turning into more of a 3-lane as we transition, but the 5-lane, the 2-lane and the center turn lane, to DOT standards, trying to get a pedestrian crossing or even a rapid flash and beacon. They want a center pedestrian, safeguards in place, and that's what we'd have to design to. If we went a different direction on those safeguards, then we would be looking at a full-on Hawk system. So we do work with DOT if there's any funding opportunity that will come available. There was a little bit of a funding opportunity that we're working with right now on College Hill, but I'm guessing right now, if you're having to get anywhere, up in that college area, that Cheney Spokane would be our primary crossing. Now, looking at any other ones like Second Street or Mary Street, yeah, we would definitely have to work with DOT on that particular crossing. If that answers your question.
It does, and I understand, but you know, I mean, the warrants for the Mutt Cat, or if you get 20 people crossing at a particular location, you could start looking at, you know, crossing treatments to get them put in. And I'm basically hearing you say we've got another master in WashDOT that we have to answer to if we're to propose a crossing. However, you know, that doesn't dissuade a safety concern. If the kids decide to start crossing mid-block, they're going to cross at mid-block. So, I'm just putting out there a safety concern that if they start crossing there and, gosh forbid somebody gets hit, we just want to be cognizant of, you know, that happening. So I don't know the answer either, Todd. I'm hearing you say because of WashDOT and funding limitations, we can't just pop something in there. Totally understand that, but I'm just saying on the flip side is that, you know, those kids are going to cross where they want to cross, and we have to be accommodating of that potential safety issue.
Yep, I agree.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll turn this over to the applicant to come up and a few words. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dwight Hume, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Gillingham. And my address is 9101 North Mountain View Lane, Spokane, 99218. Thought Brett has done a good job in writing up his staff report, and if you've read that staff report, you will see, among other things, some interesting points. First of which is this property was annexed in 1980. It was zoned commercial. That's what it is today. It's still vacant all the way through from First to Spokane Cheney Road. Obviously, as secondary property with very little visibility to the main traffic, it's not suitable for retail. It needs a point destination type use. And of course, apartments are a more suitable guarantee that the property will start being built, used, generating taxes, generating housing. That's why we're here, is to change that over to something that obviously was misidentified in 1980. None of us had anything to do with it, but let's correct the map. In correcting the comprehensive plan map, as Brett's staff report indicates, there's certain needs to weigh the proposal of the change against goals and policies that were adopted into the plan. Brett has pointed out that we're in compliance and consistent with the appropriate goals and policies to be changed from commercial to residential. The proposed zoning is in fact recommended by staff because one of the other initial requests from staff was to develop a site plan, not so much and not at all for the purpose of review at a building permit level. That's not why we did it. We did it to assure staff that the property could accommodate and comply with your city standards for parking and for setbacks and for use. And indeed, it demonstrates that. This shows 96 units in a four-story, four set of buildings, 4 stories high. And then because it's a mix of 2-bedroom and single bedroom, it generates a need for 146 car parks plus handicap, which it can comply with. So is that more suitable? I certainly think so after 45 years of no interest for any type of use. The simpler way to do this would have been what Spokane County and the city of Spokane have done for years, and that's to allow high density in your commercial zone, but that's not there. And so thanks to the accommodations that you folks have allowed, we're here today making that change. So that's really the essence of what I read in that staff report. We requested this. It's consistent both in terms of zoning and the zoning implements the requested comp plan change. So if you agree that this should be multifamily, then the best fit zone, and you're obliged under Growth Management Act to match those as much as possible and put the commercial, the apartment zoning on the property as well. We understood from Bill's comments on traffic that he suggested a crosswalk on Andrews to get people to and from your retail office complex across the street. And that certainly, we're willing to do those type of improvements. If there's other needs that you just alluded to at First Avenue or over at Cheney Spokane, I guess we have to look at that. But as Brett said, there's a time and place for that when you really know what's before you for a project by the developer. So at least we know for this that we misidentified, or somebody did way back when, the zoning. This is a much better purpose for the property. And it's, as staff report indicates, it fits into really the county-wide and the state mandate for accommodating more housing. And so that's what this does. A little different from what you were looking at back in the 2017 adoption of the plan. So, and we're on this side of the railroad tracks within the city and not forcing traffic to cross that type of facility. That's about all I have to say. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Anybody, comments from the public? Please come forward.
I'm Shane Ellis. I live at 716 4th Street. I haven't really looked at this before this meeting tonight, but I think in general that it actually seems like a good redesignation to be able to provide that type of high density of infill. It sits in a location where it's probably not going to see commercial development. So I think in fairness, that's probably something that's worth considering. Because I believe that after you go through this process and if you do this amendment and move forward, that this is kind of the only time for real good opportunity for the public to weigh in and say anything. So that's why I'm speaking. But the one thing going on to traffic stuff, it is a little bit interesting. I don't think traffic count's going to be like a super major thing, but one thing about this site and with Andrews Road being there and being kind of almost forgotten about currently is the fact that once this is developed out, it might attract people driving through there out of convenience to bypass a stoplight. And so it's interesting, your access point, it appears it's actually for Andrews Road, not necessarily up First or Cheney Spokane. So in terms of actually applying city rules, that those access points are the ones that are going to be taken a look at. So you might have limited opportunity to look at certain types of improvements on First Street or Cheney Spokane. So you should definitely be taking a look at that now. And also considering potentially traffic calming devices on Andrews Road, or maybe a right in, right out on First Street. Try to prevent people. I think primary concern would be left-hand turns coming off of Andrews Road if people are trying to bypass the stoplight on First and Cheney Spokane. So, thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I will close public hearing number 2025-04. Or the taking of testimony. Any comments or discussion from the commissioners?
I mean, from my perspective, I think that was a great comment that Shane, right? Shane just had, you know, the potential for cut throughs there. I heard the 3 or 4% vacancy rate. Sounds like Cheney needs some additional housing alternatives. I'm in support of that. My big comment is that I don't know when it's appropriate to look at it, but maybe there needs to be a little bit of a look at, again, the pedestrian crossing is a concern to me. You know, it's funny on college campuses, you know how they build sidewalks. They just look where the kids walk, you know, their footprints are in the line, you know, and so they go through and they build sidewalks there. And so the kids are going to do what the kids are going to do. So I think we need to at least look at that somehow when it's appropriate to see if a crossing is going to be warranted with the development of 110 apartment units right there. So that's my request. And I don't know when we would look at that or not, Brett. When would we look at that? And Dwight said that they were willing, so I don't think that we're risking anything here, so.
I think we can look at it in a couple ways. I mean, generally, we don't put that into the ordinance, which is included in your packet as a condition at this point in time. This is a land use issue. But I think we definitely need to have this discussion prior to coming in for a building permit or civil plans. I think when it comes in for civil plans.
Okay.
We need to have that conversation to turn in terms of connectivity of both Cheney, Spokane and First Street. The idea of a right in, right out makes some level of sense. Cause I could see people coming down there and then trying to make a left. But, you know, we also don't want to create a situation where we're dumping traffic into other areas as well. So I think that has to be kind of figured out. So we need to, I need to have a conversation with Todd about that. But yeah, I think should be an opportunity for that conversation.
There's another SEPA coming up, right? This is for the land use, and then when they have a site proposal, will they do another SEPA that we'll have to look at all this again, or how does that work?
Yeah, we'll do a CPO as part of the building permit process. There's for the square footage being rating in units, yeah.
There's another bite at the apple is what I'm hearing you say. Okay.
I just make. I'm not against development because I've said many times, you know, if you're not growing, you're dying. And we certainly need that. It would be nice to see a little less high density and a little more expansion of some of the other areas that we are lacking here in the city of Cheney as far as the development process. We seem to get the high density that's come before the planning commission. I think ever since I've been on the planning commission, it would be nice to see a little bit more diversity in what we're providing or giving to people here within the city of Cheney. You know, but I too understand it's got to make financial sense to be able to, you know, to build and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that we probably aren't going to see all the trash being dumped behind the farmers and merchants building space that I've seen, you know, throughout the years. So I think it's great that we're providing opportunities. Concerned about the safety concerns, you know, for people. And so I just hope we, in the process of developing this, that we're taking a look at making sure that our citizens are protected, especially our pedestrian and bike traffic. So please keep that in mind when you go forward. Any other comments, discussion? Do we have a recommendation to send up to the city council?
I'll recommend to city council that we approve. Is it a comp plan amendment? Is that how I'm supposed to say it? Comp plan amendment and zone change?
Correct.
I'll recommend that.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we recommend the site plan and comprehensive plan amendment to change this designation from commercial to high density. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your input and your comments. We'll move on to everybody's favorite part at the first of the year, election of officers. Do we have any nominations? Please keep in mind what I've said the last 2 or 3 years. That the last 2 or 3 years were going to be my last year as chair.
Want to go for one more last year?
So moved.
That was not the purpose of the reminder.
Can you refresh what are the actual officer positions?
Just president and vice president, or
Chair and vice chair.
chair and vice chair.
Are you saying that you'd like to step down?
I'm saying I'd like to give someone else the opportunity to sit in this seat. I don't mind doing it, but I'm not a control freak either. I'll still have the same comments regardless of where I sit on this dais. So I would like to give somebody else the opportunity if they'd like to step up and hear the commission.
Who's the vice chair right now? I don't even know. I'm new. Okay. I don't have any issue keeping things the way they are unless somebody wants a shot at the cheddar.
Yes, so I guess right now with Robert's Rules of Order, we've got a motion on the table. And I'm assuming that motion is to nominate me as the chair.
Correct.
Second.
Okay, one more year. One more year, okay? I think maybe I'm just gonna have to talk to the mayor about resigning. To be able to,
Rich, if you really don't want, I'll step up and be chair if it's gonna be a
It's
burden.
not, it's really not that I don't want to, or it's, does somebody else want to take the opportunity to step into that role and be able to be the chair of the commission? If someone wants to do that, I'm happy with that, but I don't want to make it sound like I don't want to do it. Because that's not the case. I will do it. This is my city. I've been here a long time. I don't know when anybody else, moved here, but, when we moved here, Tom's dad ran Jarms, downtown. Yeah, about, 72 is when we moved here, January 72. So, and so I do like participating. I like to be a part of the community. So I don't want people to think I don't want to do that. But, if there's other people that want to do that, that's fine. But we've got a motion and a second. And so I need to move forward with any discussion on that nomination. Hearing no discussion. All in favor of retaining Richard Mount as the commission chair, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Aye.
It seems a little self-serving. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, so I guess we're here for one more year. For the fourth time. So we now need a vice chair nomination.
I could volunteer to be vice chair. In the hopes to replace the chair one day,
You've got a succession plan.
but we
here,
see,
Nick.
Okay,
but we'll see.
all right, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that I just lost your name. Ron Valencia serve as the vice chair of the Cheney Planning Commission for 2025. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Thank you, everyone. Commissioner reports. Do we have any commissioner reports tonight? Hearing none, let's move on to item number 7, staff reports.
Yeah, we got 3 items. One is we had the planning commission city council workshop last week on the comprehensive plan update that was well attended. We had, I think, 3 planning commissioners and about there. We also had the citizen involvement to look at some of the different scenarios, possibilities and things like that. I will be meeting with the consultants tomorrow to talk about next steps and see when we'll be doing additional open houses, workshops and things like that. So we're slowly moving forward. We're again about quarter of the way through the process. So we have another year and a half of getting this all completed. So yeah, we'll be in touch with that kind of stuff. As far as the March Planning Commission meeting goes, we don't have any agenda items proposed at this time as far as the public hearings or anything like that. We may have Todd or I do a presentation on comprehensive planning or solid waste plans or one of those other informational items that Ron's been talking about. That's TBD. I guess the final item of note is, I mentioned this to Todd and told Marker about this earlier. I have been offered a position in Des Moines, Iowa, with the Greater Des Moines Partnership as a director of research for economic research in geospatial analysis for 12 counties, starting in the middle of March. Huge opportunity professionally, salary wise, in other things, center of the country, crossroads of America, to do all kinds of cool stuff with economic data, labor data, workforce data, housing data, vacancy studies, all that kind of good stuff, using a lot of my skill sets that I like to really take and develop much further. So I will be here with the city through March 11th, and then I'm on the road to get to Des Moines, weather permitting, and so forth. So I will hopefully be here at your next planning commission meeting, which will be on the 9th or 10th.
Can we go back to item number 5 with that announcement?
It's a huge opportunity. So,
Well, congratulations, Brett. We appreciate everything that you've done for the years here. Since I've been on the commission, you've done a great job of keeping us informed and up to date. So appreciate everything that you do. Wish you the best in your new adventures. Stay away from those tornadoes back there.
new house on the basement.
The foul ordinance wasn't cutting it for you, huh?
No, it's like I said, it's a huge opportunity to do.
Congratulations.
It was a grueling interview process, 10-hour interview.
Looks like the council and Mark got some big shoes to fill.
Todd and I will be meeting this week to discuss.
Awesome.
Can we get a report on the status of the swimming pool project?
I'll let Todd comment. Todd?
Yeah, I was gonna talk about this pool. I mean, obviously the pool is moving forward. We should see within the next couple of weeks, the actual pool being assembled. It took a little while to get from Italy all the way to our side and then through customs a little bit. projection. It was a few weeks, a little bit of delay there, but we should start seeing those walls go up. I believe they're going to start at the deep end and work. With the weather the way it is, they're going to still continue to pour concrete if they can. I know this cold spell, the concrete places could be closed down, but kicking it on to the next week, you'll see more and more concrete going in place, for the slab, and then we should start seeing the block and stuff go vertical after that. So you should go up pretty fast. We're looking at we're reviewing Walker every week or every 2 weeks. We're reviewing the schedule, seeing if we're on track. Running a little bit behind because of some of the Murtha pool delays, but we're looking at seeing if we call what they call stacking. To try to make that time up. So once we know if they're on time or if there's a little delay, we'll have to get that out on with everybody, with news with everybody else. So so far there have not been any winter shutdowns, which is a good thing. A good thing for them to continue to work. And then also we have been installing purple pipe on the north side. If you haven't seen it yet, there's equipment moving across Cheney Middle School and Cronks Field. That is the Cheney purple pipe. So we have not shut down for the winter, nor have we done a lot of snow plowing. So we have been working on other things. So it's been a very busy year. And so far, looks like we're ahead of schedule, even with the purple pipe projection. So be happy to answer any additional questions.
Thank you, Todd. Any other staff reports? Hearing none, we'll move on to adjournment. We stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being in attendance. Appreciate it.